What's going on, football overseas? My name is Kevin from Blog Runner Zone. I'm bringing you La Liga Match Day 16 predictions. Let's jump right in. First off, Real Sociedad versus Girona. Real Sociedad is coming off of a devastating loss to Alaves, 1-0. Very hard to bounce back from. But Girona are also coming back from a devastating loss to Elche, 3-0 spanking. Obviously, you'd rather your team lose 1-0 than 3-0, but losing at all to either Alaves or Elche is crazy. So this is definitely the battle of mid tomorrow. I definitely think that Sociedad could have the edge just because I think they're known more for scoring. And especially because Girona has been like the toy of La Liga. So I think Real Sociedad will get that win. Next up, we've got Atletico de Madrid versus Valencia. Atletico de Madrid is coming off of a loss to Atletico Bilbao. Very shocking loss. But honestly, they dropped off in form after they beat Real Madrid. Honestly, like, something has to be said about clubs beating a more successful team. Like, they're punching up, and then afterward, they just get dogged and dogged and dogged. We saw it from Liverpool after they beat Real Madrid. They went on this crazy losing streak. I think now they're finally starting to win some games. We've seen it with Chelsea. They beat Barcelona in the Champions League and then completely fell off. And I think we're seeing that with Atletico Madrid as well. Very devastating loss that they need to come back from in order to beat Valencia, which I honestly think they will, even though Valencia is coming off of a tie to Sevilla. But either way, those are two pretty mid teams. But now Atletico de Madrid versus Valencia, I definitely have Atletico de Madrid getting that win. Next up, Mallorca versus Elche. I just mentioned Elche, the win that they had last week. Dominant win against Girona. Very good win, very good showing. Probably their best win this season. Sucks that it has to be against a mid team, but +3 is +3. Next up, Elche and Mallorca. I think those will be a very interesting game, even though Mallorca is coming off of a rather mid tie to Real Oviedo. So I'm going to give the edge to Elche. I think Elche will get that win. Next up, we've got Barcelona versus Osasuna. Barcelona coming off of beating Betis 5-3. Very good, dominant win for Barcelona. And Osasuna, on the other hand, are coming off of a 2-0 win to Levante. I think both teams are in pretty good form right now. As a Barca fan, it makes me very nervous, though. I'm not going to lie. Just because the team is so shaky and inconsistently. We're consistently inconsistent. Like, you can almost predict when we're going to have a bad game, and I feel like this might be a bad game. Joan Garcia might have to be our MVP. But either way, I'm giving the win to Barcelona. Up next, we've got Getafe versus Espanyol. Getafe is a team that really hasn't made much of a splash this season. Last week, they had a very regular Getafe loss to Villarreal 2-0. I don't think we're going to see much better from Getafe this season. And Espanyol have actually been having a pretty good season considering the piece that they lost last summer. And they just came off of beating Rayo Vallecano. So I'm going to give the edge in that match to Espanyol. Up next, we've got Sevilla versus Real Oviedo. I mentioned that Sevilla went through a tie last week, and so did Real Oviedo. So I think neither of these teams are really coming into this match in perfect form. But I will have to give the edge to Sevilla. I think they're more capable of getting the win this week. Up next, we've got Celta Vigo versus Atletico Bilbao. Bilbao, we just mentioned, that had that win against Atletico de Madrid. And Celta Vigo that had that 2-0 win at the Bernabeu. Beautiful win. I think that Celta Vigo can carry that form into this game. At least I hope they do. They're like a team that you kind of root for because you know they're not going to like hurt anybody. You know, they're just really capable of hurting Madrid. And that makes me a little bit of a Celta bias, especially because I dislike Atletico Bilbao. I dislike Nico Williams. I dislike everything that Bilbao stands for. Even though they gave us a legend like Íñigo Martinez, I give this win to Celta Vigo. Up next, we've got Levante versus Villarreal. Villarreal is coming off of a win, as I mentioned previously, and Levante is coming off of a loss to Osasuna. I'm going to give the edge here to Villarreal for sure. I think they're more capable of getting a win. I think they could have maybe Nicolas Pepe, shining moment. I don't know, but I think, or maybe Ayoz, but I think Villarreal will have that win. Up next, Deportivo Alaves versus Real Madrid. Deportivo Alaves, I mentioned, had a win against Real Sociedad, and Real Madrid had that loss 2-0 at their own home in the Bernabeu to Celta Vigo. I think that Alaves could make this game interesting. Maybe they'll take a point or two from Real Madrid, but I think maybe we'll see a very classic penalty para Real Madrid, and Kylian Mbappe is never going to miss those. So I think Real Madrid will get that win. And last but not least, we've got Rayo Vallecano versus Real Betis. We mentioned that Real Betis just had this loss to Barcelona, and Rayo Vallecano also had a loss to Espanyol. But there's no shame in losing to the champions of La Liga. So I think Betis won't be too down on themselves. However, Rayo has a reason to be down on themselves. So I think Real Betis can ultimately get that win. Let me know what you guys think of these match day predictions. Let me know in those comments if your team is picking up 3 points. My team will definitely be picking up 3 points. If you guys want to see more of me, check me out at Blog Granazone. It'll be in the description. Thank you so much, Football Overseas, and I'll see you next time.